Welcome to the Strategic Insights Podcast. I'm your moderator, Andrew Makl. Today we'll be covering a topic, what separates Fuuz from others in the industry. Today supporting that conversation with Fuuz is Craig Scott, CEO. How you doing today, Craig?
Good. Andrew?
You know, Craig, we talked briefly at one point. I think this is the evolution of the first conversation we had. But for those that don't know a little bit about you, can you give a little background and an introduction of yourself?
Sure. Yeah. I'm a manufacturing engineer. Started my career as a CAD guy, working in the CAD room, drawing tools. Worked up to process engineer, manufacturing engineer, worked in quality, worked in all the departments. I started a tool and die shop in the Detroit area about 2008. Sold that off. Worked at a company called Plex for a while, a few years, doing implementations. Learned the IT side of the business there, and then left Plex and started my own consulting business, where we implemented ERP, manufacturing solutions, and now I'm here.
You know, th- Obviously it's a transition we've all heard of. I think that P word you noted, as well as starting in CAD might date you a little bit, but
Yeah,
that's fine. Um,
I
what,
actually learned how to draw on paper first. Yeah, with an abacus and scales and whatnot. So
so far,
CAD was revolutionary at the time.
fair. Well,
Yeah,
full
yeah,
circle, full
yeah.
circle. You know, from that evolution, what inspired you to start Fuse?
Well, I think the primary thing that inspired me to come up with a solution was, being a service provider. As you guys know, I mean,
Mhm.
you're always on the hook for making that client successful, and sometimes the technologies that you have available at your fingertips are not always the best or adequate to do so, and that's kind of where we found ourselves trying to implement. Plex for a number of years and other technologies. So we saw an opportunity to bring something to market that we saw a need for, which was extending or bridging those gaps between the shop floor and the top floor. So just really out of frustration, honestly. Yep.
Limitations of what was in the marketplace.
So many limitations. Our services team had to learn how to deploy 6 or 7 different technologies, right? That's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
Learning all the different licensing models, learning all the technical nuances, learning how to demo them all of that, right? It was just, yeah, I just got fed up and we just brute force said, we're going to do it better. And I think that's what we did.
So the vision evolved just due to pain that you had to endure while supporting customers and making them successful.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
how has that really changed in, like, let's say the last year? Because obviously it's been, as we started this conversation about 9 months plus ago.
Yep.
And I know our world's drastically changed now partnering with Fuse, but what has changed for you in the last, 9 months since our initial conversation?
Well, our strategy and our mission has not changed at all, right? We're still about supporting our customers and solving their problems. That's what it was, and that's what it will remain. I think some of the things that have changed for us is maybe a bit of a strategic shift in the market, where we see upmarket manufacturers and distributors looking for a better option than what has been out there, the legacy solutions. COOs are, more and more increasingly having a lot of pressures put on them because of the workforces are, aging out. We've got new people coming in. There's a training gap, skills gap, and that's where technology can really help them out the most. In deploying those operational models, right? That discipline and rigor. Um, to help address some of those points. So that's what we've seen a fair amount of the hand raises come from, rather than what we had seen previously was a lot of IT or OT folks looking for very specific point solutions, whether MES, WMS. Now they're looking for a broader capability.
So, and I've seen a very similar trend, especially when we started going down this road and looking for customers that have requirements, the point requirements, or the one challenge or one pain point requirement was a lot of the
Mhm.
initial conversation. But the one term that the hot button, if you will, that we're seeing is now that once we engage, we're going to get with a CIO, or we're getting with someone then in their their team that's doing culture change, for example, and trying to do proactive, we're seeing the transformation platform be a buzzword being used. We're actually seeing it in some people's titles. And I
Yeah.
think that's where we're really seeing that. You're talking about the operational model. We're actually seeing a different change, right? The push from C-suite on down on how they're changing it. And I think one thing that you brought up, I'm really want to get into a little bit more. When you talk about operational models, I think safety was a word I heard brought up at my last meeting. What are some of the things that you're seeing drive down? Because you talked about that changing workforce. Well, when you leave a 30-year employee leaves or a 20-year employee leaves, there's a lot of, zero instant days that person's put
Mhm.
in over the last 20 years. And, how is that being driven or being requested out of what I would say more than just a point-based MES WMS solution?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes from the top down, right? That tribal knowledge that you pointed out is something that needs to be captured. It's not just taking paper, putting it on glass, which has traditionally been what MES has been. The connected worker, right? All of those types of applications really help to digitize an environment, which I think is what some of these transformation leaders thought digital transformation was all about, was let's get all our paper and put it on digital. But that only solves one part of the issue. And the other part of it is really driving the controls and processes and procedures through technology, connecting with the machines on the shop floor, controlling the movement of not only the machine, but the person as well. So there's a lot of AI technology out there right now that will, through machine vision, it will track the operator's movements, make sure they don't put their hand in the machine, right? I mean, some people just don't know.
They don't.
They use brute force. I see it with my kids at home all the time, right? Trying to assemble that new piece of IKEA furniture, and he comes down and all the screws have been stripped out, because it's just so that's what we're lacking and what we can address with a platform like Fuse.
And I think it's key to understand because when we talk about, going paperless, that's great, right? Now you just basically put your data in a different area, but what are you using it for? But we always say the big differentiator when we look at organizations that are looking for that transformation platform or looking for a true MES solution, not a point solution, is how are you taking the machine integration and the data it's providing in making business decisions or adjusting, as you noted, don't put your hands in the machine,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. It's taking those elements and making it a platform and not a one answer product.
Yep.
So as we look at that, you also have a WMS component and you have other
Mhm.
things that you're coming out as well, because obviously Fuse is also a
Yep.
platform,
Right.
which a lot of people don't really, that used to be a negative, right? We don't want platforms, we want products. Now we
Yeah.
don't want products, we want platforms.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's really both.
Right. Yeah. At the end of the day, we look at Fuse as being both. We come across, we go to the market with some templated applications that are pre-built that help our customers get up and running a lot faster. We've solved a lot of the harder challenges within those apps like MES and WMS so that they don't have to worry about that. And we give them that ability to take it the last mile and really tailor it to their specific needs. The point of the platform, if you look at like the ISA 95 spec is, you got level 0, which is the sensors and the inputs on the machines, to level 1, your PLC, level 2, your SCADA, 3 level is MES, WMS, everything that most people touch within the manufacturing floor from a tech perspective. And then getting that all the way up to the cloud. And that's where Fuse is not just that horizontal layer, but it also provides the vertical backbone for all of the data to flow between all the different levels in a manufacturer's environment. And we're hybrid. So, we address kind of a unique need in the market to be able to run these solutions on prem when on prem is the only option because we lose internet. But we have the cloud native backup there. So once we restore internet, you're back to flowing, right? Most ERP systems now are, if they're not cloud, they will be cloud. That's the big push.
If
All,
they're not cloud, you're on an old version. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And you're due for an update. Many of them are pushing their customers that way. Not only that, but all of the new tech, right? Big analytics, data warehouses,
Yep.
everything is cloud based. So that's where we started, and we understand that manufacturing is difficult. Operations is typically lacking budget and resources, and all of the things that go along with that. So we had to generate a technology that we could work with those folks on that addressed all of their immediate needs, but gave them room for growth.
And it's interesting because you cover not just WMS and MES, you also cover parts of quality. And
Mhm.
we just got done earlier recording a couple different sessions on the value that companies receive out of quality and how they're making that part of their business a differentiator when
Yep.
they go to bid on business. And you're touching so many parts of the business, whether it be operational efficiency, whether it be inline inspection, so you're catching things in real time.
Yep.
The flexibility of the platform is really helping companies take a look at how they're strategizing for the future. And I think from some of the messaging I've heard, of course, from your organization, allowing yourself to future-proof operations. It used to be a funny buzzword because everybody was like, "Hey, the software is going to change in 12 months. It's really not going to be there." But I think how you're positioned and how the code is set up, especially being low code, no code,
Mhm.
you're a big differentiator because a lot of your competitors are very rigid.
Yeah.
And I think people don't realize how rigid when you're talking about getting the data off the floor and the things that you're doing. How do you separate yourselves with how you're architected and your go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, well, I mean, you bring up a good point. The legacy providers out there are very rigid, which is oftentimes why when you walk into a manufacturer and you ask them what they're using for MES, they pull out a bunch of Excel spreadsheets, right? Or some homegrown solution that they've spent years and years and millions of dollars, implementing because there is no commercial product out there that just is plug and play. And what we have done with the technology is build it in such a way that we're providing a commercial platform that's scalable for the enterprise, batteries included. So there's no infrastructure, right? We've taken all of the hard parts out that no one wants to deal with, that no one wants to call at 3 in the morning when the server dies, right? So, and the floor stops and parts are not coming out the machine. So we deal with all of those things, but we give the customer, and their team, their IT team, OT team, the ability to build whatever they need, extend whatever they need. Uh, it's really unlimited in terms of what it's able to do, as long as you've got folks that know how to do that.
So I know you have a customer advisory board, and
Mhm.
we've talked a little bit about that. And you're talking about how the customer can actually use the platform to extend those things and avoid problems and errors. What are some of the things you're seeing pushed down from your advisory board for future builds, or can you hint about what's coming out in the product that's really taking off right now?
Yeah. Our customer advisory board is probably unlike many other software vendors' customer advisory boards. And when we started it, it was more about us educating them on what the tool was capable of doing, right? Because, historically, like we said, a lot of people set out to find a point solution. So they would come and they would buy Fuse because they needed to do some kind of integration, iPass, EDI, whatever,
Mhm.
or they needed WMS or MES. And the reality is that oftentimes companies buy a technology, they implement it, and then they run on to the next project, right?
Right.
So we all have been in the world where we talk about phase two and how great it's going to be, and we're going to add all this and do all this. And how often does it really happen? Not as often as we all would like. And that's what we found initially with the cab. What we're some of the feedback we're getting now is very positive, and it's 7 to 10 times faster for them to build applications. They're starting to see opportunities to eliminate, reduce other applications that they have.
Mhm.
And we're looking at newer things and opportunities like AI, machine learning. How do we incorporate that from both a low no code perspective to help the non technical build applications that can be enterprise scale, not just a simple screen with a couple input fields, but how can I build, how could I basically use AI to say, I need a warehouse management system and it needs to do X, Y, and Z and just have it go build the app for them. Our technology enables that. Um, and then the end user side of that, right? So now you're collecting all this data and information from the shop floor. You want to leverage some AI. We see too many manufacturers making the mistake of investing a lot of time and money in AI without first developing the data strategy.
It's AI is one of those great topics that is making our lives easier in a lot of different ways. And your point on data strategy can't echo home enough. And the fact that it can be wasted effort and time if you don't have a strategy surrounding it. If anybody's played with their own how they add AI to their own lives, they've realized
Yeah.
where they've probably wasted effort and time on buying or trying to plug in a solution to do something that might not necessarily tick a box. And that's a lot of wasted effort and data. Um, you know, as we look at it as a whole, I'm really excited for the fact of having a low code, no code option that can incorporate AI and actually build an enterprise level app, not just something for an end user screen or something just for materials, but it could be rolled out across an organization. And if that's where we're headed, which it sounds like we absolutely are, your flexibility and speed to market are going to be a drastic differentiator when we talk about those
Mhm.
legacy systems versus what you're bringing out on the table. And we talked a little bit about the phased approach and the phase one versus phase two, and we absolutely agree. Phase two doesn't happen as much as we want. We're seeing it more in our some of our install base, just because in some of the SMB versus the enterprise, they have to, due to just not either having the budget or having the
Right.
time.
Yep.
But I think the ability to do phase two with a product that's low code, no code versus constantly calling for somebody, I need somebody that can code me up this and create a customization and it's going to
Yeah.
rev limit me, is a massive differentiator. As you look at the next year and the products you're building, and what are the three things that you'd say are going to be the biggest differentiators for people in the industry, especially when they look at Fuuz, whether it be a product related or a platform related?
Yeah, I think one of the big things is from a platform standpoint is to enable these larger enterprise businesses to deploy those operational models. There's with the reshoring, with everything going on globally, a lot of manufacturing coming back. We're seeing a lot of operations teams having, struggling with how do we scale fast? How do we get a greenfield site up and rolling in under 12 months, right? We're talking to new OEMs that are trying to build cars in less than 12 months to get to market, right? There's all these speed strategies that truly only the Fuse platform can actually enable. Too many times we see them go looking at legacy tech because that's what they know.
Yep.
A lot of the leaders are familiar with. So we're trying to educate as many people as we can on what a modern scalable platform will enable them to do. They see everything that's out there that they know of as a barrier to accomplishing their goals. So once we come along, it's just like their eyes open and, it's just revolutionary. So I think that's the biggest thing for us. It's not that we need to change something in the technology, it's that we need to educate the masses on what it actually means to be an operational platform. And certainly from an application standpoint, end user, we want to build the tool sets out for guys like you, like strategic, to be able to develop your own IP and get that out there in front of your customers to help them solve their needs quicker, right? Without the technical background, and you guys can help them do that, and you are already. So we're seeing a lot of those benefits come out of it.
Absolutely. It's exciting for us. I mean, you talk about the operational platform, and we talk about how historically, when people run into problems, they lean on the products they know. And like you said, the speed is there. That's our biggest issue when before Fuse. And now with more companies going to be agnostic towards some of their either ERP or major systems, they want that platform that's going to either integrate those things or is going to give them the flexibility to take care of those challenges across all their different sites. And we are right now trying to educate our client base on a couple of them as they look at that strategy.
Yeah.
How fast can we roll these things out? Because everything has time problems, right? We have seasonality in Europe with vacations. We
Hmm.
have, of course, North America with shutdowns. And then, of course, you've got the contractual obligations they have to the systems they may or may not want to be staying on, because a lot of them are being purchased or legacy being basically thrown to the wayside,
Yeah.
forced upgrades. It is one of those things where I think the speed and the flexibility will be a differentiator for the rest of 2025 for us. So, Craig, I know I could talk to you all day long regarding Fuse, the capability of the products, the platform. I think you made a valid point on the three reasons why people should at least engage and look at Fuse as an option when you run into either a point challenge or just an operational challenge,
Hmm.
as it being a true transformation platform. If I can use another buzzword before the end of
Yeah.
the podcast, but if you're finding a need in an industry, whether it be in any of the acronyms that we can't went over today, or just want to understand how you can better position your organization for the future and use this platform and this product to be a differentiator in industry when you go to bid on business, and of course support your customers, please reach out to Fuse's website or Strategic. Glad to help get you along and put you in touch with the right people. But Craig, thank you
Yeah.
for your time today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Andrew.